All right, I just gotta say, I don't know what it is about the import scene in air fresheners, but this is like the third air freshener I've got from parts that I've ordered. Your guys' cars must stink like shit if you need this many air fresheners. Or maybe I'm doing it wrong and my car just stinks like shit. So this is air freshener number 3 for the parts I've got. I think I got a Mushimoto one and I forget what the other one was, but hey, this thing's gonna smell fresh and clean. What's up guys, welcome back to the shop. So I know it has been a long time since I've messed with Project Prelude, but I got burned out of this thing, painting the doors, repainting the fenders, repainting everything, the deck lid, all the problems we had in the spring. Had the truck and some other things come up and just got burned out, put it on the back burner. That being said, it's time to get back to work on it. The last month or so, I haven't done a lot of recording because I just kicked it old school. I went back to the good old days where you just crank up the tunes in the garage and you just get things done. Plus, dealing with the wiring harness, terribly boring, not gonna lie to you. But we do have the engine harness done and we do have the chassis harness done and we have a bulkhead right there in the firewall. So if we do blow the motor, super easy just to unplug the harness and we're ready to go. We can yank the motor out. That being said, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. And hey, check out our website, ftpspeedshop.com. In the meantime, some parts have showed up. So our new clutch, that showed up about a month early. It was on back order, so that's pretty quality. And our coilover showed up. So now we've got some function form type 2s. We can get this thing sitting low. As you can see right now, I got it sitting up on the cribs. We're ready to pull the wheels off of this thing and start putting these coilovers on because I want this thing to sit lower than it sat before, but I also want it to handle well. I don't want to get an eBay coilover kit that thing rides like hell. I want it to ride good and I want it to ride right. So let's get to putting some coilovers on this thing. Let's get it sitting right and low. All right guys, so the first order of business, obviously we got to get the wheels yanked off. I do have new brake pads and all that jazz. I'm going to go ahead and get new brake lines, rubber lines to put on there. And I got to get the hard lines set up so that we can get the master cylinder all hooked up with our ABS delete. So we're going to go ahead and get these wheels ripped off and we're going to get started tearing everything apart. All right, so as you can see, I have no pads in here. This is all tore apart and I got upgraded VTEC calipers on here. I do have new pads for it. I've got my eBay cross-drilled and slotted rotors, and these guys right here are what we're after. So we're gonna go ahead and start pulling things apart, get those loosened up. We've got 3 bolts up here, need to come out. Alright guys, so in order to release this lower ball joint, a lot of people will put a pickle fork in here and just completely destroy that dust cover. You don't need to do that. You need to get yourself a hammer and you just smack this guy a couple times and that thing will actually come loose. Just like that. So now we have the upper control on with the spindle. Everything is loose and we're able to pull out our old shocks. Now these guys are fairly decent, pretty good quality, but they don't sit low enough. So it's time to replace them with some more low parts. So we're gonna go ahead and put this on the bench, remove this guy right here and put it on the new coilovers. All right guys, so I'm not gonna lie to you, all my good bench space is taken up with superchargers and LS1 parts because the almighty LS1 gave up the number 6 rod. So that being said, I'm over here to the tiny bench, but we're gonna go ahead and get this what do I want to call this thing? A foot? Fork? lower thingamajobber. We're gonna get this lower thingamajobber off, so that's what we're gonna do right now. Okay, we blasted the 14mm bolt off right there. We used a big impact to do that. Now the thingamajobber slides right off, and now it's ready to be put on the new coilovers. That was a hell of a good zip tie right there. There we go. Brand new, pretty little thing. Look at that. That is beautiful. Let's go put that thingamajobber fork on there. Let's get it put in the car. Ooh, adjustable. All right, so we got our new coilovers right here. We got our fork foot thingamajobber. That's gonna slide on just like so. And we'll get that pushed all the way up there, and we will tighten up the bolt in the back. But I can't do that one-handed, so you're gonna have to take my word for it. And just like that, let's get the bolt in here and let's drive her home. And this is torqued down to the factory specs, just so everybody knows. All right, so we're back over here at the car. We got our brand new coilover ready to go in, so let's get her fished in there. So we're gonna feed these up. Just kidding, I lied. Those aren't gonna go up. Those aren't gonna go up easily. I guess we're gonna get a jack. Put just a little bit of love on that lower arm. So as we're jacking, I like to make things easy. Use a jack just to line everything up. We're just gonna line up the bolt holes with the hole, or with the bolt, I should say, the stud. And just go ahead and push it on up through. Now we've got it tight. Function over form. Gives us these nice nylon lock washers to go on top. And I'm not gonna lie to you, probably gonna just put a small washer underneath there just to keep it from tearing up our bodywork. So I'm gonna go get new washers, or get washers for this, and we'll be good to go. All right, so I'm mostly a domestic guy, but I am building a Honda. So I do have these 3/8 flat washers. I'm gonna go ahead and drop on here. They fit right over that, and that's gonna, in my mind, help me keep the bodywork from peeling up and tearing the bodywork. So this will give us a little bit of cushion between the coilovers and the bodywork. All right, so I just got everything finger tighted under here because I am going to have to pull all this back apart eventually. Once the motor goes in, I gotta get the axle in here. So the axle is gonna have to go through that guy right there. So it's all gonna have to drop apart again. It's finger taut at the moment, and it's good to go. All right, guys, so back here in the trunk, in order to get the upper half of the strut out, we need to go ahead and pull this little plastic plug. There's one on both sides, and we can then gain access to the top of the shock tower Right there, those two bolts hold the top in. Undo those and the top is loose and it pulls straight down just like the front. Same thing over on this side. Alright, so down here in the wheel well area, the bolt to undo the lower mount is right there. I've got a socket on it. Pulled the rear caliper off to give me a little more access in here. Alright guys, back underneath the car here, you'll notice that the coilovers are installed. Camera decided not to record anything or save, so what we had to do in order to get these coilovers in is we had to undo this castle nut here and separate this joint here. I do believe you could undo these two nuts right under here, and that would do the same thing, and that allows the entire hub assembly to rotate out of the way, so you can pivot it out of the way in order to bring the coilover in. And then we also have to undo this lower coilover mounting bolt right here. Alright guys, right off the bat you can see the coilover there is quite a bit lower out of the box than the strut assembly. I know I want to drop about 1.5 inches from where this one was, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust the coilover and get it so that it's about 1.5 inches from center line of this mounting bolt to the top of that mounting flange right there. I want that to be about 1.5 inches shorter on this one. So we'll get the tape measure out. We'll kind of get these things ballparked in and get them close, so we know they're going to be sitting pretty close to where we want them on the car. When we get them put in, we can fine tune it in the car. Alright, so now we got this set at really close to 22 3/4, so that's going to be our starting spot. We're going to go ahead and get the other one out of the box, and we're going to set it up to the same height so they can be equal to start, and then we're going to go ahead and get them put on the car. Alright, what's up guys? So we finally got all the coilovers back on. In the rear, these must have a way higher spring rate than what I had on there before, because it actually raised it when I put it 1.5 inches lower. So I need to go ahead, and I measured this distance from the tire to the wheel well. It's about 2 inches. So we're going to go ahead and jack the car back up, rip the wheels off, and adjust those coilovers down 2 inches, and hopefully we'll get this thing sitting the way we want it. So let's get it done. Alright guys, now in order to lower the vehicle 2 inches, we're going to go ahead and start off by measuring from the bottom side of the locking nut to the adjuster nuts and figuring out what that distance is. And then we will want to take 1 inch out of the coilover in order to lower it approximately 2 inches. It's not an exact 1-to-1 ratio, but it's close. First thing we're going to want to do is loosen this lower nut here. Once we get it loose, just go ahead and spin it out of the way. Now in order to raise the car, we're going to want to loosen this whole assembly. So to do that, we're going to grab a hold of the bottom nut here. And we're going to just go ahead and turn this whole assembly. Now if we were wanting to lower the vehicle, we'd grab a hold of the top one. and turn it. We don't want to grab a hold of the bottom one and turn it to lower it, because that could loosen this nut up and then you lose all your tension in there. Right now those are basically jam nuts that are jammed together. So you want to go ahead and go against the nuts so they push on each other rather than away from each other. So that's going to be our next starting spot. We'll get the wheel put on and get it back on the ground. We'll get this lower nut spun down and get it cinched up, and then we'll move on to the front. Okay guys, in the front here, now that we have the motor setting in the car, we can see what this thing's gonna ride like height wise, and we do need to bring it down about 1 inch in the front. So that is what we're going to do. It looks like they're right at 1 3/4 inches, so we're gonna bring that down to about 1 1/4 inches. So we gotta move this sucker down a ways. Same thing as we did in the rear. We gotta loosen this bottom jam nut. We want to grab a hold of this top ring nut and we want to turn it down. Long, boring process. I will cut back when we have it sitting where we want it to be sitted. We'll go ahead and tighten down this nut. Guys, that's going to be a wrap for Project Prelude Coilovers. Finally got these bad boys on, and I got to tell you right now, it was well worth the money just in looks alone. The car is sitting down right where I want it to. I do need to probably raise the rear end up just a little bit so that the wheel well openings are sitting about even for the gap. But the next exciting thing is our last missing piece to get this motor started is a fuel pressure regulator, and that is showing up tomorrow. So this thing should be started sooner than later. So stay tuned for that one, and thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.